Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching Blair and Company. And my name is Joshua Blair. And today I have Mr. James E. Ford on the line. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. So anyway, we're just going to ask you just a few things about yourself. Just talk about your upbringing, talk about what got you into education, and why you love, and then why you love education, and some of the initiatives you have going on.
Excellent, excellent. So you want me just to go ahead and dive on in?
Okay, well, normally what I normally do on my podcast, what I normally do is just it's a Charlotte-based show. So what I normally do is, what's your first thing about Charlotte, or what's your favorite thing about Charlotte, rather?
Um, Charlotte's impressionable, and
Mm,
what I mean by that is, unlike a lot of other cities, bigger cities, for the most part, those larger metropolitan areas, they're going to be what they are going to be, right? They're pretty fixed, right? Chicago is going to be Chicago, no matter what. New York's going to be New York. LA is going to be LA. Houston, Philly,
mm-hmm,
Charlotte's a place that it's still moldable, it's
mm-hmm.
still pliable. What it is or what it is to become has yet to be determined. And so it's a place you can, like myself, right? You can migrate to and immediately have an impact on the fate of the city. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's not to say you can do it all, right? There's still a lot of fixed things that are in place, but uh, it's pliable, and that's what I love about it.
That's good. That's good. Is there like a specific place you like to hang out, or like a specific restaurant you like to go to?
Oh man, I can't even remember anymore. We've been on quarantine for so long. Yeah. So the region of town that I like to sort of hang out in most. So I live in University City. I love University.
Mm-hmm.
I love how diverse it is. And by diverse, I mean like racially, ethnically, socioeconomically. I like that it really is a city within a city. Like everything you need, you can
Mm-hmm.
get in University, right? If I need to go, if I want some, some Vietnamese or some Thai food, some Puerto Rican food,
Mm-hmm.
uh, cultural, delicacies, that I can get that. If I need to
Yeah.
hit the hardware store or whatever, I can get all that stuff without leaving
Mm-hmm.
University. In terms of hanging out, man, I really like more of the sort of gritty, used to be gritty places, so like I used to hit up bars or whatever in Plaza Midwood.
Mm-hmm.
They have like a lot of character to them, with a lot of characters in them,
Yeah.
and a lot of food spots that are cool like that. Um, I might, and I used to teach over in East Charlotte, so it's not, not too far from the intersection of Noda and Plaza Midwood. So those neighborhoods are cool over there.
Mm-hmm.
Might hit up a finger licking, a Jamaican spot right there off of the plaza. You
Mm-hmm.
know, might get some craft beers over at TikTok Market. Those were
Yeah.
kind of the spots that I would kind of hit up before everything got shut down. Some of my favorite locations, and I think you could sense a theme here that I really love cultural food.
Yeah.
So cultural cuisine. And then for night spots, like I really ain't really a night dude like that. But if I was stepping out, man, I'd be like, like the jazz clubs or like the live music spots, the few of them that we do have here,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
the Imperial, checking out like Harvey Cummings and his
Mm-hmm.
crew. Um,
I've interviewed him before, so I know
yeah,
him.
Harvey's
Mm-hmm.
Harvey's Harvey's a great dude. Tremendous, tremendous guy, charlatan, alpha man, just an all around Renaissance cat. So whenever him and his crew play, I try to check them out. But those are just a few of the spots.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. So, where are you originally from?
So I'm originally from Rockford, Illinois. It's a
Okay.
city in northern Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
about 90 miles northwest of Chicago
Okay.
and southwest of Milwaukee. So kind of kitty corner between the two of them.
Oh, okay.
Um, and born and raised there. So I'm from the Rust Belt, from the Midwest.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, tell me about just growing up there, like, and some of the people, and tell me a little bit about some of the people that influenced you while growing up there.
Yeah. So Rockford is not Chicago. I should lead by saying that.
Okay.
I'm quick to correct people for a host of reasons. One is, Chicagoans don't tolerate that. You ain't from the city,
Mm-hmm.
you can't rep the city. I'm talking about from city limits. But on top of that, for real, like you could be right over the border, you can't rep the city.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, it's just characteristically different. Chicago is, it's the second city of America, a city with broad shoulders, bustling metropolis, and Rockford is not that. Now, I was growing up, we were the second largest city in the state,
Mm-hmm.
but we're like the size of, of a Greensboro or something like that.
Okay.
Um, but it's just different, right? You didn't have the diversity, you didn't
Mm-hmm.
have the culture, you didn't have the activity, population density.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rockford was a racially polarizing
Mm-hmm.
environment to grow up in. And so as a kid, like, I became very familiar with issues of race very early on. And part of that was because I participated in court-ordered desegregation efforts as a child, as a youngster.
Mm-hmm.
So I got bused from my side of town, the southwest side of Rockford,
Okay.
to across the river, cross over to the east side to a more affluent majority white school at
Mm-hmm.
from first grade through fourth grade. So I became very familiar early on with racism. I was introduced to it young and had to learn it how to navigate in that environment
Mm-hmm.
of extreme racial animus. Um, but on top of that, just the city itself, I feel like was a microcosm of America.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, we were about African Americans were about 12%, 13%. It's about like America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sizable Latinx population, but just the way that the power brokers in the city and the way that we were denied opportunity growing up, it was very difficult to navigate. And it was frustrating and
Mm-hmm.
it was hurtful and it was it was almost all consuming.
Yeah.
But for those who made it, who were able to endure and able to become literate to the patterns and behaviors, I feel like I was Rockford armed me with everything I needed to know about the work that I do now. Right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I became an expert, experientially, in how racism functions, how it operates, what people think, what they do, how people don't say what they mean, what they do
Yeah.
behind closed doors. Like just all these things. It was like it hurts you and it leaves you with scars,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm immensely grateful. And then, man, I met some of the best people in the world. Like to this day, like some of my greatest friends and friendships that I've spawned have been folks that I grew up with. And again, if you can make it in Rockford, my saying is you can make it anywhere. Like New York they say that about New York, but New York got plenty of opportunity. You can make it
Yeah.
someplace like Rockford, you can really make it anywhere. So that's my hometown, and I'm always gonna rep it.
That's good. That's good. And what obstacles, like you said, you had to go, you were desegregated, or you had to go to the other school on the east side
Right.
of town. What
Yep.
obstacles did you or did any obstacles you had to go through while going to the other side of the going to the other school on the other side of town?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I tell the story a lot. Folks in Charlotte are kind of familiar, or at least they were 4 years ago with
Mm-hmm.
the story. But um, so I tell the story of like being a 5-year-old first grader going. I was young,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a little girl in my class talking about asking Polo in the class who likes what ice cream is better, vanilla or chocolate,
Mm-hmm.
and her just making it clear, obviously vanilla is better, you know. And then kind of diversion from there and saying, what's better, a black puppy or a white puppy? The white puppy is obviously better,
Oh,
you know.
okay.
And even as a kid, I was like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. Yeah,
Yeah.
I pick up on the pattern. I can infer, I can draw an inference as to what you're alluding to. But it was just that. It was being called the N word, and
Mm-hmm.
fighting with little white kids. Honestly, just the moment they said that word, we were dropping everything. Me and my older
Mm-hmm.
sister, we were fighting. And but even more being mistreated by the adults. I remember distinctly
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I could sense like that the adults didn't want me there. And I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking to myself, here you are, a grown person, and like you're doing things to deliberately malign me. I got in a fight with this one white kid.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this kid's name, David, right?
Mm-hmm.
I, And I wasn't even in the fight. He was fighting another kid. I jumped in trying to be a good Samaritan, try to break it up. And David turned around, started swinging on me and hit me. So what I do, I respond back, and retaliated.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up getting taken to the office. My principal there looks at David and says, "Look what you did to him. Look at him. He has red spots all over his head. I don't see any red spots on you." And I looked her dead in her eyes. I said, "That's because I'm black."
Mm-hmm.
She looked at me like, "Oh, like you're not stupid. Like you're not a dummy. Like I thought I was gonna, finesse that one past you, and like you're cognizant, and like
See.
just that stuff right there. Like I remember incidences like that, and I'm like, I've been dealing with that my whole life, man. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? And
yeah.
you adjust to it. So those are some of the lessons I would say that I remember and recall vividly.
And for her, and to be honest, for her to be an adult and
Yeah,
act like that is
yeah,
just very, it's sad.
yeah.
It's
In
sad.
hindsight, you're like, that's a that's negligent. That's a
Mm-hmm.
dereliction of duty. It's a lot of things, man, but it happens.
Yep, that's true. So moving on from that, so once you got to like high school and college, how was it? Did it get a little bit easier, or like how did the progression go from there?
Yeah. High school got better because I only went to that elementary school for 4 years. I went basically so almost all of my elementary. I switched fifth grade. I went to a magnet, an arts magnet,
Oh, okay.
and the most so you could compare it in Charlotte to like a Northwest School of the Arts.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to audition to get in. Everybody there had some sort of talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whereas it was still kind of initially a very white environment, it was nested. It was a partial magnet. So it was a program within a school on the west side.
Oh, okay.
So the program was pretty white. It was a school within a school.
Mm-hmm.
The program is pretty white, but man, you go into school with like, and you have classes and everything like with black kids, and with brown kids, and
Mm-hmm.
you in the hood, you in the school that nobody wants to go to. I don't know, I'm like West, you're at West Middle School, and then the white kids who I was associating with, they were different in their orientation. Like the familiarity and the credibility came from like what your talent was. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yo, what do you do? Oh, I draw. Like this kid is really good at drawing. Like, oh man, have you seen his drawings? Or this kid sings, or this kid plays the trumpet, or this kid dances. So
Mm-hmm.
like that was the capital. Like, what can you do?
Yeah.
And so it was a different world for me in that. Um, just I, those are people that I still talk to this day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like for real, for real. I've gone on vacations with, these folks with my family. They be down here visiting me. Those are friendships that I made that were long lasting. And I stayed in that program from fifth grade all the way through high school. Right.
Okay.
So I graduated through that program. And so I spent the rest of my schooling on the west side in that
Okay.
in that partial magnet program. And through college, college was great. Went to Illinois State University in Central Illinois, in a city called Normal, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I wasn't that great of a student academically, just because I had a bunch of other things on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got to college, I enjoyed myself, and I found it like I could really flourish here. I could, I definitely made some mistakes, had to learn, take my
Mm-hmm.
lumps, but I found it like okay, like academics is something I can do, and so I eventually ended up getting out and doing well, taking leadership positions on campus, and kind of becoming a known quantity there. And that's I really think where I sharpened my leadership and my skills as like an activist and like an
Mm-hmm.
advocate.
Okay. So what did you major in?
My major was mass communications with a,
Oh,
a,
okay.
a
Same
focus in
same here with
print
me.
journalism. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So we didn't have like a journalism program, but we had a concentration, right? So you could concentrate in print journalism, and that's what I did. But yeah, mass comm. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
That's
And
good. That's
a minor
good.
in sociology.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So how did your focus shift from doing that to teaching?
Good question. I was bent on being a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I wanted to, focus my energies. I wanted to be an investigative journalist in
Oh,
particular.
okay.
I wanted to cover controversial issues and topics, right, that people don't talk
Mm-hmm.
about. I got out in '03, and that's
Mm-hmm.
right when the internet was starting to destroy traditional newspapers because
Mm-hmm.
folks were going online to get their news now. So they didn't have to order papers. So like newsrooms were getting Like they were just getting shredded. Um, and so I couldn't find work. So I went into the nonprofit industry. Initially, I did some um, health related stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
then eventually I got engaged in um, working with youth. So found myself in the after school space, in the
Okay.
after school time space. Um, well, initially in the high schools doing truancy intervention, then in the after school space, and I just loved the kids so much. I was like, man, I love this interaction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but it wasn't enough for me. I was like, I need more time with these people. I want to be in the classroom. I want to be the teacher. If I could see these kids every day and be able to talk to them and have like an hour or a block just to engage them, like that would be a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And what dawned on me was like, what you really want is a teaching position. You know what I'm saying? Like you want to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And so I discovered that I was a teacher. That's where that longing came from. So I just
Mm-hmm.
went back and got my master's from Rockford University. Came out in '09 and taught for a year back home. I
Okay.
actually student taught in my old high school, which was cool.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was amazing. Taught for a year at Guilford High School in Rockford, and
Mm-hmm.
then I moved down here to Charlotte, sight unseen, with my 1 year teaching under my belt, ready to change the world, and ended up teaching at Garinger High School for
Mm-hmm.
uh, for 5 years. So
Okay. So
yeah.
once you got to Garinger, how did you adjust? Or like how when you first got there, what was your expectations and how did you adjust?
So I had none. I tell people this all the time. I had no expectation. I was just going. When I moved to Charlotte, I was just applying online to places and showing up with my resume.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about Charlotte, bro. Not beyond like a couple of visits. Like I think I want to move here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I kind of once the bell rang, or actually beyond that, nope. When I started going around and letting people know that I got hired,
Mm-hmm.
just casual interaction with other Charlotteans, and they
Mm-hmm.
asked, "Where do you work?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I work at Garinger."
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Oh wow, kind of giving me the reaction, and I'm like, after about 2 or 3 times, that I'm like, oh, this school has a reputation.
Mm-hmm.
But when I showed up first day of school, what I saw was kids who looked like my high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, I know what time it is. Like this is like the black and brown school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But what was noticeable was the absence of white kids, though.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay. Like that's why the school has rep that it does. That's why everybody behaves this way. That's why they respond the way they do. So I just kind of put the pieces together myself. As far as the kids, man, it took some adjustment learning the Charlotte culture. Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, a lot of funny stories about like how I just made mistakes. Like the gang culture down here, I wasn't familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Gangs, I grew up with Chicago gangs. I know Chicago gangs. Like the back
Yeah.
of my hand, I know what language to avoid, what colors, all that stuff. But the first thing I said to a bunch of kids down here was like, "What's cracking?" They was like, "Oh no!" I had no idea what I did wrong, But I had no idea. But primarily, Charlotte was just starting to experiment or be, experiencing influx of Los Angeles gangs. We didn't have Bloods and Crips where I was from.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the Chicago gangs dominated the territory. So I had to become literate to that stuff, and then learn the nomenclature and the slang down here. But the interaction with the kids was great. Like I
Mm-hmm.
loved the kids, and they loved me back. And those are relationships that I still have to this day. They changed my life, man, profoundly for the better.
Mm-hmm.
And I will always, 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 always look back fondly on the time I spent at Garinger High School. It was a magical 5 years. It was a window and a time period that I don't think, even if I went back there, it wouldn't be the same. It was
Mm-hmm.
just different.
Yes, I definitely understand. And I feel like everybody, when it comes to certain schools, especially here in Charlotte, like
Mhm.
Garinger, there's always been three schools between
Mhm.
Garinger, Vance, West Charlotte. And
Yep.
they always had just this reputation of just being not the best schools, being
Right.
bad or whatever. But once you get to know the people and the faculty who works there,
Right.
it makes much more of a difference, especially, and there's so many talented people that come out of those schools.
I always felt like the reputation was undue.
Mm-hmm.
It was unfair. I was, I would read the newspapers, and occasionally, frankly, I pull up the newspaper articles on my Promethean board and read it with the kids. Like, look what they're saying about y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Incident that happened, and people would just be so eager to write stories about Garinger. Um, but I always told the kids from the beginning, we critically engaged like the world that they were in. I
Mm-hmm.
just I just didn't think it was right. I thought I mean I come to understand that's an actual teaching tactic now, like with years of like literature and research to support, that approach. I
Mm-hmm.
was winging it. I was just like, I'm not gonna sit up here and lie to y'all. Like, let's be honest. Let's be honest about where you are in the world, how the world views you, why they do that way, and then let's make this whole schooling experience about um, proving these folks wrong and rejecting that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I didn't want to hide the world from them. And in hindsight, like that was absolutely the right thing to do because they knew they were smart.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to know that I knew they were smart. Um, and once that trust was generated, that they realized, oh, he doesn't view us the way the rest of the world views us, that he believes in us, and he going I mean, listen, I'm gonna challenge you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna let you just fall by the wayside. That's not what this is for. Like, I'm always gonna literally, be pushing you hard.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally, it might make you uncomfortable, but like that's what I'm here for. But once the loyalty was clear that I was doing it out of a sense of love, then man, it was nothing like the appreciation, the love you got in return because they knew that like you as an instructor, like you believed in them. So that was what
Mm-hmm.
was important.
And that's important because my thing is, you make when situations like that happen, you're willing to invest in students' education and just in
Mhm.
their future. It makes a world of difference, and and students don't will remember that.
Yeah,
They will never forget that, and it makes a difference, and it shows what's going to happen going forward in their future.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you listen, man. There's hazards. You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna see some wild stuff. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? You are. You might get cussed out a couple good times, but like, come on, man. You're all right. You can take it.
Yeah.
That's home of the territory. It's like um, it's like getting your hands dirty, right? You work in construction. You have
Mm-hmm.
to know that's part of the job, and if you can't, if your ego can't withstand having taking an insult here and there, with the comprehension and the acknowledgement that these are adolescents, right? And
Yes.
that's what they do, then you probably should find another line of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's most definitely. So
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about how did the um North Carolina Teacher of the Year process happen? Because I remember when people was just promoting you and just everybody was just talking about, have you heard James Z Ford? Have you heard what he got going on? So how
Funny, man. Yeah.
so tell me a little bit about how that process happened.
Isn't that crazy? You even talking about it is like bringing back memories. That whole thing was just wild. Um, it really was. I appreciate it though. It was life changing.
Mm-mm.
I describe it as like a tournament system, what you would expect in the NCAA. It's like some March Madness. So every school in North Carolina every year on a schedule has to select a teacher of the year for that school. And there's
Mm-hmm.
certain criteria. You have to have been at the school or teaching for at least 2 years or 3 years. I forgot what it is. Um, have to have not gotten it there before. Some crazy thing. So I got selected by my colleagues
Mm-hmm.
as teacher year at Garinger. Man, that's
Okay.
one of the most humbling things ever. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, and personally, um, I won't compare it to state teacher of the year, but at the time, I think that was the most gratifying because those were folks who were in the trenches with me, who saw every day what I was doing, who
Exactly.
thought enough of me. You know what I mean? To
Mm-hmm.
honor me with that. Um, but then, I mean, you go from so every school in Charlotte, Mecklenburg schools, has teacher of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they go through some criteria where they decide what the second interview process for your um what was it called? Zone at the time. Your
Okay.
zone, right? So your learning zone, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed for a learning zone teacher of the year. I got my learning zone teacher of the year within Charlotte-Mecklenburg. So I was like, cool. Well, they only got so many zones. So then it's like all the zone teacher of the year finalists are competing, quote unquote, for district teacher of the year.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, at this time, like I was happy with the school teacher of the year. I was like, all right, man, I almost didn't even go to the zone interview. I was like, man, let me just get back to handling my business. Like this is what I'm good at. I'm in my groove, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, let me just get back to teaching. But I showed up and man, I won district teacher of the year. Could not believe it, man.
Mm-hmm.
I started crying. You know what I mean? I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, right. Because I'm being honest with you, Jack. Like I don't win stuff, man. I'm
Mm-hmm.
on the longest win streak I've ever been in my life, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I usually don't get credit for stuff. I'm usually like, I might be visible, but I'm not the guy who wins stuff. You know what I mean? I'm not
Yeah.
the guy who's
Mm-hmm.
usually out front. So this is a new space for me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I got more of the like chip on my shoulder, blue collar Midwestern, thing going on.
Uh-huh.
So I'm ready to get off the train at this point. Man, I
Yeah.
won district teacher of the year. This is great. It's amazing. But they're like, man, now you got to go to the regional interview. I'm like, come on now. I got to write an essay and do an interview for region teacher of the year for
Yeah.
the Southwest region of North Carolina. So I go. So, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a fraud, you'll get exposed at that level, at that stage.
Oh,
They
right.
do not
Oh,
play.
really? Mm-hmm.
No. You might do an interview, but bro, once you get selected as a finalist for the regional teacher of the year, they show up at your school. Like a team from the Department of Public Instruction from Raleigh comes.
Mm-hmm.
They descend on your school. They take your school over for the whole day. You got to get them a space in the building where they can set up like an office. They
Mm-hmm.
got a team there who's going to watch you teach.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to interview your students. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to interview your colleagues. And
Mm-hmm.
they're going to interview parents of your students.
So how
Man,
did that make you feel at that time?
I was like, dang. I really, it was interesting. I was like, man, I really want to know what they got to say. Cause like, I've never taken the time to like talk to all my parents and colleagues to find out how they really feel about me. And so I was like, wow, let me see how this goes. Like, if I'm really good, like this is going to make it known.
Mm-hmm.
And man, my colleagues were just like coming back from the interviews and they're like with tears in their eyes, like, man, man, we love you, man. Like, it was so cool to sit there and hear like our other colleagues just talk about your work and it was a spiritual moment, bro. Like, so it didn't even matter whether I won or not, just to hear them say that and
Mm-hmm.
hear the parents talk about me, like that. The relationship that I have with the parents, they knew they can count on me, that I'd reach out. I was like, amazing. So I ended up winning Southwest Region Teacher
Mm-hmm.
of the Year, big deal. Every region in the state, that's something similar. You come together, it's a big banquet where they choose who the state Teacher of the Year is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I kid you not. Right before they were getting ready to make the announcement, I did not want to win this thing because I knew that they was going to take me out the classroom for the whole next year.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
wanted to go back. I wanted to go back to school. So I got an email right as they were getting ready to make the announcement that I had been moved on to the next level of the Charlotte assistant principal pool. I was applying to be an assistant principal. I
Oh,
was like,
okay.
cool. All right. I got an interview. Cool. I don't even want this. I hope they don't even choose me. 5 minutes later, they said I was the state teacher of the year. I was like, wow. Wow. So that gave me a full year to be the face of education in North Carolina. This black man from Charlotte who really hadn't even been in Charlotte for even 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't even been in teaching for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it gave me the chance to just, represent the profession and travel the state and be in proximity to a lot of decision makers and learn.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a gift, man. It changed my life. I thank God for it, And so that was a blessing for sure.
That's good. That's good. And for me, I feel like it was a pivotal moment, especially because I always felt like African American men in teaching, I always feel like that's important, especially in the schools that you teach at, and especially it's important for the imaging has to be right.
Right.
Especially we can relate to people that look like us. So for African American men to be teaching, especially like African American boys and girls, it makes a world of a difference. And to see that happen, and they can see that on the state level, it makes a world of a difference.
That's a fact. That's a fact, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
research to back that up for sure.
Yes, most definitely. So what initiatives have you been working on since then, since you received that honor?
So, oh Lord. Um, I left after that first year. I did not return to teaching. I went and I
Mm-hmm.
worked. I became so interested in policy, education policy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I was just like wanting to know who makes the rules that determine the game. And
Mm-hmm.
so I ended up working for an education think tank, a policy think tank out of Raleigh. I stayed in Charlotte, but
Mm-hmm.
continued to work for an org in Raleigh called the Public School Forum of North Carolina, just doing policy stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Introducing other teachers to policy and how to understand policy,
Mm-hmm.
exploring race and the implications of race in education in North Carolina. And so
Mm-hmm.
that kind of allowed me to develop my policy chops for 2 years.
Okay.
Uh, at the same time, I took a voluntary civic post. I got appointed to co-chair the Charlotte Leading on Opportunity Council, which
Mm-hmm.
was the council tasked with implementing recommendations from the task force with regard to Charlotte's lack of economic mobility and opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a big local leadership position. As far as visibility, I mean, for 3 years, man, I was the one or two faces of that work here in the city and trying to respond to the economic challenges that we have, and um, varying degrees of success for sure. But I was proud of the work I did there. Again, I was all volunteer, and then I started doing consulting about 2 years ago, full time.
Mm-hmm.
I started my own education consulting company called Filling the Gap Education Consultants, and so we did everything from working directly with schools and districts to even working with you know, um, cultural entities. And so, I worked on that Welcome to Brook Hill project with Alvin Jacobs and David
Mm-hmm.
Butler.
I love
Uh,
that project.
yeah, appreciate that, man. So we
Mm-hmm.
were very proud of that. I did some of the research behind that, the housing, the redlining, and all that stuff. So trying to
Mm-hmm.
find ways to stay active in my passion. But then recently, last August, I started my own education nonprofit
Okay.
called the Center for Racial Equity in Education, or known as CREED, the acronym CREED.
Mm-hmm.
And for my knowledge, man, like I said, after leaving the classroom and traveling the state, I noticed that a lot of the racial disparities that I was witnessing at Garinger were not exclusive to Garinger. They were not exclusive to Charlotte. That whether I went to the northeastern corner of the state, way out in Northampton County or something, or whether I
Mm-hmm.
went, out west, in Boone County, that I would
Yeah.
still see the same sort of disparities along lines of race.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, an organization has to emerge to exclusively address, the intersections of race and education in North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina and in North Carolina
Yes.
context. And so I created it. So I joined forces with my partner and friend, Janine Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been in operation for, what is it? Going on a year in August, right? So that's the work that I do full time now. It's, you know, doing work around racial equity in education, research, engagement, and then implementation work. So that's what I do.
Okay. And so what have you learned from doing that work? What have you learned about just the racial disparities that go on in North Carolina and even in Charlotte? What have you learned from it? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Like what do you think?
I learned that we've allowed a lot of things to go on because we just haven't shown a light on them. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that everything that you see in every other social system, whether it be housing, healthcare, criminal
Mm-hmm.
justice, man, it's happening in education.
Mm-hmm.
And it can't be boiled down to one issue.
Mm-hmm.
That oftentimes when we talk about race, we talk about, like, I think black people and other people of color know that we're not getting a fair shake in education, but we don't necessarily specifically know what's happening. We might choose one issue like, suspensions. Our kids are constantly getting suspended. School to prison pipeline. True. That's only
Mm-hmm.
one part of it though, man. I promise you the issue is it's gargantuan, it's mammoth, right?
Yeah.
Or charter schools or school segregation. All of those are just pieces, man, of a
Mm-hmm.
larger system that comes together. All of those pieces that matter, but all these pieces are working together. It's like this, octopus with all these tentacles. And these
Mm-hmm.
tentacles, you know, strangle the educational opportunity out of students of color. And
Mhm.
what we've done is we figured out pretty well what it looks like, top to bottom.
Mhm.
So now it's about um, educating the public and bringing them into the process, engaging them and helping to build an agenda. What do we do about it,
Yeah.
right? Because it can't go on this way. It can't persist for any longer.
Yes.
So,
It must definitely. And while you were speaking, I was thinking about like when like drawing the school boundaries for schools for what
yeah,
schools you have to go to. That makes a world of a difference too, because
yeah.
one year your student might be going to like a 5-star rated school, and then
Mhm.
the next year they might redraw the lines, and you might be going to a poor performing school. So, and that makes a difference in your education and how you receive it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, big time, man. I mean, you hit it all on the head right there. It's, I mean, that implicates real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Segregation of your town or your city.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all these things. If race is not directly implicated, it's indirectly implicated. So it's about learning how to respond to these things. And that's like I told you, man, I've had an early start on addressing these issues. I've
And that's
dedicated my
just
life to it.
and that's crazy how it just came back full circle.
Yeah, man. Want to do it? You know what I mean? For real. Like it ain't because I'm so smart, man. I promise it's not, or because I'm so great, or I made all the right decisions and all the right turns. I have not. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I've absolutely not, like emphatic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I do trust. I trust, man, and I think that the average outsider looking in can see that my steps are clearly ordered, man. I
Yeah.
trust in
Mm-hmm.
that, and as long as I do what I'm supposed to do, I'm gonna have an impact. And if God before me, like, I don't think it's a good idea to be going against me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
yeah.
And that's good. That's good. So, during this whole COVID-19 situation, how have you been maneuvering since this whole situation?
Yeah, so our work has been primarily online, and the cool thing
Mm,
is, like, a lot of the work we're doing already, the workshops, the professional developments, the training, the research, the community engagement. Some of that stuff was online anyway, and if it wasn't, it was easily convertible, right? So,
mm-hmm,
like, we work with all the principals in Wilmington, North Carolina, right? All the
mm-hmm,
principals in New Hanover schools. We were already doing that virtually online. Like, I would show up there a couple of times, but for the most part, I was already using Zoom to do professional development, so that made it easy. Some of
mm-hmm.
our other clients who we do implementation work with converted it. That kind of made it easy as well. Um, our main thing right now is ideating on, okay, what I think this is a tragedy, but also an opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
because there were kids who I was talking about who the education system wasn't working well for them beforehand.
Exactly.
So now the whole thing's been shut down. People are afraid, they don't know what to do. Let's pause for a moment, take a quick time out, and let's ask ourselves honestly, what can we do to change the education system where it could really
Mm-hmm.
and authentically work for those who have been pushed to the periphery for so long, who have been left behind? How do
Mm-hmm.
we let's take a moment to rethink, reshape this whole thing. So our work has really been about leaning in and imagining a different future for education, one where we center the lives and experiences of most marginalized students.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a virtual convening taking place on June the 13th, where we're going to be convening, stakeholders, parents, teachers, students, concerned citizens around that very topic.
Exactly. And also I noticed just during this whole COVID-19 situation with students, just figuring out like how they're receiving their learning. Because I know a
Right.
lot of times now a lot of the teachers are going through doing Zoom calls. Everybody
Right.
don't have Wi-Fi
They do not.
and the libraries aren't open. So I'm
No.
just like, how are students interacting and getting that learning that they're supposed to receive to move on to the next grade? And that's an issue, and that's a disparity.
Yeah, it is, and I'm glad you pointed that out. You're dead on. Everybody, just like everybody can't shelter in place, everybody can't do remote learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? That assumes a whole lot of things
Mm-hmm.
about families and students' situation. Man, we got counties, man, that we work in where not only do they not have um, devices,
Mm-hmm.
not only do um, the parents of the families not have broadband internet subscriptions, but they don't have the infrastructure,
Mm.
You know what I mean? We
Mm-hmm.
ain't talking about education. We talking about that locality that does not have broadband access.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and consequently, a lot of these counties are black and brown. They're black and Native American
Mm-hmm.
predominantly. So, uh, how we proceed forces us to consider those who are the most vulnerable. And that's
Yes,
the
most
spirit of
definitely.
equity. And so, again, I think we can seize this as an opportunity to really build a system that's correct, that's right.
Exactly. I definitely agree. Because I just noticed that and I was like, well, that's a disparity in itself because
Hmm.
how are people receiving the learning and being prepared for the next grade level if they don't have the adequate resources to be able to learn? So yes,
And
most
who
definitely.
who who are those people typically? What do they look like? What demographic? You know what I mean? Like just run it on down, and you start to see like, oh, okay, we're talking about the same populations primarily.
Exactly. Hmm. So where can you see yourself going within the next 5 to 10 years?
Um, so I'm working on my PhD, so I need to get that done.
Okay.
You,
Congratulations.
I appreciate it. I don't congratulate me too soon. I still got probably 2-3 more years left.
Oh,
Uh,
but you got it
but
though.
yeah, I'm slow walking this thing, but nah, I'm gonna finish without question. But I got to put that out there as a goal right away in 5 years. Um, Also, I mean, I could see I see Creed being an exemplary organization for how to lead the charge for racial equity and education across the nation nationally,
Hmm.
um, and might even be a replicable model in other states and localities. Who knows? Um, if I'm being 100% honest with you, I've entertained the possibility of elected office, but I
Hmm.
don't know, man. I got some really unpopular views, and I'm pretty like I'm an agreeable person, but
Hmm.
I don't fool around when
Yeah.
it comes to I'm not afraid to take an unpopular position.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not afraid to speak to my convictions.
Hmm.
Um, and we live in a nation and a society where that's kind of taboo to do that. And so I don't
Yeah.
know how electable I am, but um, there are clearly some needs for leadership, and you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how that might play out. So, 10 years, who knows? Maybe I'll be in an elected post, but I don't know, man.
Oh, okay, okay. So would you want to start like on the local level first?
I don't even know. I mean, local, state, probably state level. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, just because so much of my work is state level anyway. But who knows, man? I don't even really dangle that out there. It's too much of a possibility. Like I said, I'm not certain if I'm electable.
Uh, but
Uh-huh.
if you talk about really good policies, people are gonna listen.
I hope so. I hope so. But it's about mobilizing the communities that I would consider to be my audience, those who don't typically vote.
Yeah.
Engaging folks who've lost faith in the system, and that would be my approach for
Oh,
sure.
okay. Okay. And what advice would you want to give someone that wants to go forward in education or go forward in policy or just go forward in making a difference in activism? What advice would you want to give those people?
Um, Start learning the craft right now.
Mm-hmm.
Start learning the craft. Whatever I am today is the result of like countless hours spent just investigating, trying to answer my deepest questions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there was no class. It was just me sometimes burning up the internet to try to find stuff and learn. And
Mm-hmm.
you can't cheat the process. It's going to take you a couple of years to lay the groundwork, to lay the
Yeah.
foundation. So I'd say whatever you endeavor to do, start doing it now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and cast a vision for yourself. Man, most of the things that I said I was gonna do that I wrote down, like in this many years I'm gonna do this, even if it's not a bazaar, man, like even if it's not a pie in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, it's come to pass, man. And so I believe the power of the written and the spoken word. And so
Mm.
start doing those things right now. Get involved and be learned. Um, you're gonna take your lumps, you're gonna get humbled, you're gonna get it wrong sometimes. That's okay. Make it a learning experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because just moving forward, if you need to make those steps now going forward, if
Hmm.
you want to make that big of a difference and just do your research, especially doing your research. and just look at people who have done it in the past and how they done it, and then also put your own spin to it, and just making your
Yep.
mark that way.
Make it your own. That's right, man. You
Hmm.
got it right. So, yeah, I mean, most things out here, man, it's about innovating, but it's about really adapting what's already been done, building upon that. You ain't gotta, you know, create stuff from scratch. Figure out what's been done out there, just improve upon it, and make it uniquely, befitting to your style.
Yes, most definitely. So where can we find you on social media for people who want to follow you?
Sure. So I'm on Twitter and I'm on Instagram. Same handle. I'm not on Facebook, but the handle is at JE Ford
Hmm.
NCTOY for North Carolina Teacher of the Year. I just kept the handles. Um, and if you want to find me via email, or you can go to our website, which is creed-nc.org. That's
Hmm.
creed, CREED-nc.org. You can learn about our organization, read our reports, find out more about our work, and my contact information is readily available there.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you everyone for watching Blair and Company today. Like I said, my name is Joshua Blair. I would like to thank Mr. James D. Ford for being my guest today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Hmm. And we'll catch you later. Thank you so much.
All right, now take care.
Okay.